Everyone. I'm Kenneth Woodson, Chair of the Board, and we are now formally opening this meeting of the LNI Board Review for today, November 7th, 2024. Just several preliminary matters so that we can all be on the same page during the hearing. Please be advised that this is a formal hearing, as if you were in the courthouse in the room itself. So I'd request that you respect the decorum requirements. So no sleeping, no reclining in your easy chair. Please be dressed appropriately. No bed clothing. If you gentlemen are wearing hats, we'd ask you remove the hat when the hearing starts. If you're in a vehicle, please be parked in a safe place. If you are driving or as the vehicle is moving, we will not hear your case. You must be stopped in a safe place. Also, these proceedings are being recorded by court reporter as well as being recorded by the system itself. So we need everyone to respect each other's opportunity to speak. No speaking over one another will be allowed. We need to create a good record for these hearings. We want everyone to have an opportunity to be heard, and so that your matter can be appropriately addressed. The final thing is that the City of Philadelphia Law Department will put on a list of cases that have been resolved, and some of them will be noted as moot or moot complied. As those addresses and names are called, I request that you pay close attention. If your matter is noted as moot or moot complied, that means you're okay for today. It's been resolved. You can sign off if you choose to. This is a public hearing, so you aren't required to sign off, but you are permitted to if you're noted as moot or moot complied. If you need to understand the difference between those terms, we ask you to call the administrator's office, and someone there will explain the difference between a moot and a moot complied case. Please do not break into the hearings. We have a long list rather of cases today, so we want to completely get through them, and we want everyone to have an opportunity to be heard. So please do not interrupt us as attempting to hear cases. What we will do now is that the board itself, as well as other panelists, will introduce themselves, after which we will hear from the law department. Again, I'm Kenneth Woodson, board chair.
Ralph,
And
Ralph Pincus, board member.
Steve Pettit, board member.
Ken Washington, board member.
Brian McSherry, board counsel.
Richard Wade, board administrator.
thank you very much. Others will be joining us as we proceed through the day. If any additional panelists join us, we will note that for the record. Okay, who's representing the law department today with our list of resolved matters?
Good afternoon, Chairman Woodson. Jim Kelly on behalf of the city.
Afternoon, Mr. Kelly. What do you have for us today?
Starting with number 2, 2023-4064, 1016 West Arizona Street. Janae Holmes Leggett. That's in a continuance request by agreement.
Okay, so is it a joint request?
That's correct.
Joint request. Okay. All right, that matter will be continued.
Next is number 3, 2023-4707, 189 East Roosevelt Boulevard. Katie Giolamo. That is moot.
Moot.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
do you want to have
Yes.
the Spanish interpreter read that?
Oh, yes, my apologies. We do you have a Spanish interpreter present?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
This is the interpreter speaking. Are you able to hear me?
Good afternoon, sir. Would you put your full name on the record, please?
Yes, my name is Steven, Steven. Last name Aubain, Aubain. Interpreter ID YM288.
Okay, would you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn? Do you swear or affirm that you will faithfully translate the proceedings and matter HA 2023-004707, 189 Roosevelt Boulevard from English to Spanish and Spanish to English?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you very much. Sir, what I'd ask you to do as the administrator reads this matter into the record, you would interpret that for the appellant.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Wade? Oh, I'm sorry. No, Mr. Kelly. My apologies, sir.
No problem. Number 3, 2023-4707.
El caso número 3, 2023, línea 4707.
Property address 189 East Roosevelt Boulevard. Appellant Katie Giolamo.
Y para la dirección 189 East Roosevelt Boulevard, la peticionaria Adi Yolamo
Moot.
y mudar.
Thank you. Before you proceed, Mr. Kelly, do we know if the appellant is present? Katie Guillermo, do you know if, interpreter, would you call that name, please, and ask her to present herself?
Y and this is the interpreter speaking, just to verify, is Katie Yolamo?
Yes, Katty, Guilamo.
Así que Katy Guillermo, si se puede identificar.
She was on the
Oh,
call earlier.
Guilano. Katy Guilano, si puede prender el micrófono, por favor.
Okay, it's Kathy Guilamo.
So, Katy Guilano.
Okay, Ms. Guillermo, do you understand what was pronounced on the record?
Así que usted entiende lo que dijeron en el registro.
Sí.
Yes.
Okay, your matter is resolved for today. Have a good day.
Así que su caso fue resuelto el día de hoy. Que tenga un buen día.
Okay, yo puedo hacer una pregunta.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, quickly.
Sí, rapidito.
Okay, con respecto al driveway, cuando yo fui a la oficina me dijeron a mí que el driveway tenía permiso por el dueño anterior. Yo quiero más información acerca de eso.
So whenever I went to the office regarding the driveway, they told me that the driveway had permission due to the previous owner, and I wanted to know more information regarding that.
Okay, you'll need to call the inspector or someone at the office. That isn't information that this board would have for you.
Así que tuviera que llamar o el inspector o la oficina porque es una información que nosotros tenemos en esta junta.
Okay, entonces dado del caso no tengo que pagar ninguna multa.
So regarding the case, I wouldn't have to pay any sort of fee.
Mr. Kelly, what is your response to this? What's the current status of any fees outstanding?
The case is moot, so there's no fines or fees. The violation has been closed.
Así que como el caso hemos dado, no hay ninguna tarifa o cantidad que tuviera que pagar porque ya pararon el caso.
Okay, perfecto, gracias.
All right, thank you.
Okay, have a good afternoon.
Tenga una buena tarde.
Gracias.
Okay, Mr. Interpreter, that means your assignment for this today is done. Have a good day, sir.
All right, thank you for using the service interpreter disconnecting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Kelly, let's resume.
Next is number 4, 2023-4713, 3126 Gall Street, Robert Zagorski. That's an agreement for a city affirm and a $150 fine.
Okay, thank you.
Next is number 5, 2023-4754, 1820 Everts Street, Vladimir and Lubomir Pran. An agreement for a city affirm 90-day stay of enforcement.
90-day stay, thank you.
Number 6, 2023-4763, 1852 Hart Lane, Martin Polanco, an agreement for a city affirm with a 30-day stay of enforcement.
30-day stay, thank you.
Next is number 7, 2023-4775, 240 West Birch Street, Francisco Ortiz Torres, moot.
Okay,
Number 8, 2023-4776, 50 West Haynes Street, Ashanta Chapman Murphy, moot complied.
thank you.
Number 9, 2023-4780, 518 East Thelma Street, Mohammed Al Harani, moot.
Thank you.
Number 10, 2023-4782, 2948 Cambridge Street, Arlene Ashton. This is the city's request for a continuance due to inspector unavailability.
Okay, has anyone communicated with Arlene Ashton, or is she present?
I do believe she's.
Okay, Ms. Ashton, what is your reaction to the city's request for a continuance?
Well, Your Honor, I was rather disappointed that this was only communicated to me half an hour before the hearing was scheduled to begin. I have made special arrangements to be at home to participate in this hearing, and I would prefer to move forward today.
Okay, the problem we have is that the witness that's necessary to hear your case properly is not available. Unfortunately,
Mr. Commissioner, I understand. However, I understand that he's not available due to the fact that he is in training. This hearing was scheduled on September 18, and I believe there has been plenty of time and notice to the city that his presence would be required today.
okay, understood, and thank you for your response. Unfortunately, we have a number of these that occur outside of the attorney representing the city doesn't always know when that's scheduled. Unfortunately, the time frame is often very short. And the apologies to you and the impact on your schedule. We understand that, and we appreciate that. It's been an issue. So I've heard your complaint, but in this instance, we're going to continue this matter and reschedule as quickly as possible. Thank you very much for being present today.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Kelly.
Next is number 11, 2023-4791, 2704 Livingston Street. Jesus Rios, moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 12, 2023-4824, 7637 Thorin Avenue, Sabrina Backus, moot.
Thank you.
Number 13, 2023-4831, 226 North Peach Street, Charles Eldridge, moot complied.
Thank you.
Next is number 16, 2023-4845, 3116 Clifford Street, Kevin Matheson, moot complied.
I'm sorry. That was number 16. Thank you. Moot
Yep.
complied.
Number 18, 2023-4855, 2046 Dickinson Street, M. Donovan Preddy, moot.
Moot. Okay.
Number 19, 2023-4857, 5142 Walnut Street, Sula Sidibe, moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 22, 2023-4879, 5123 Westford Road, Charles Hughes and Sabrina Johnson, moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 23, 2023-4883, 724 West Lehigh Avenue, Andres Chabur, moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 24, 4893, 6832 New State Road, Greg, Argentina. It's an agreement for a city affirm and a 30-day stay of enforcement.
30-day stay. Thank you.
Number 25, 4894, 213 West Penn Street, Candace Watley Jameson. That's an agreement for a city affirm and a 30-day stay of enforcement.
30-day stay.
Number 26, ending in 4909, 2220 Walnut Street, Russ Lehman, doing business as Rosie's Taco Bar. That is the city's continuance request due to inspector unavailability.
Okay. Is anyone present representing the appellant? Russ Lehman, Rosie's Taco Bar. Anyone present? Anyone present? Okay. Well, we will continue this matter.
Next is number 28, ending in 4913, 1309 West Seltzer Street, Lynette Shields, moot complied.
Moot complied. Okay.
Number 29, 2023-4919, 1112 West Tioga Street, Dematir Kapaj, moot complied.
Okay.
Number 30, 2023-4927, 2904 Westmont Street, Slava Stepanov. That's an appellant's continuance request that's unopposed by the city.
Okay. We'll continue that matter.
Number 31, 2023-4928, 3376 Frankfurt Avenue, Dewey Wiseman. It's an agreement for a city affirm and a 30-day stay of enforcement.
30-day stay. Okay. Thank you.
Number 32, ending in 4930, 4742 Hazel Avenue, Shireen Malik, Arif Malik. It's an agreement for a city affirm and a $100 fine.
City firm, $100 fine. Okay.
Number 34, ending in 4955, 3329 Almond Street, John Strzelka. That's an agreement for a city affirm and a $150 fine.
Okay.
Number 35, 2023-4957, 9908 Bustleton Avenue, Vladimir, I'll just spell it, Pukhkiy, doing business as VSJ Group LLC. That's moot.
Moot. Thank you.
Number 36, ending in 4962, 3510 North 23rd Street, Cynthia Johnson. Agreement for a city affirm and a $150 fine.
Okay, Mr. Kelly, before you proceed, I'm getting some background noise. So if there's someone who isn't muted, please put yourself on mute. I'm getting background conversations. Thank you. All right, Mr. Kelly.
Did we get that one, 36?
Yes.
Okay. Next is 37, 2023-4964, 1831 South Broad Street, Lawrence Stern, doing business as Trustee Philly 16 Trust. That's an agreement for a city affirm and a 180-day stay of enforcement.
City affirm, 180-day stay. Okay, thank you.
Next is 38, ending in 4996, 838 East Haynes Street, Adrian Johnson. Agreement for a city affirm, 6-month stay of enforcement.
City affirm, 6-month stay. Okay.
Number 39, ending in 5002, 1845 Hart Ranch Street, Packer Park 3 LLC. That's continuance request by agreement.
Okay, thank you. We'll continue that matter.
Number 41, 2023-5017, 2801 Tremont Street, Bessim, at last name XHEPA. That's moot.
Moot. Thank you.
42, 2023-5027, 3001 Stokely Street, Kyle Meiser, moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 43, ending in 5040, 114 North Mole Street, Anew Properties LLC. That was withdrawn by the appellant.
Thank you.
Number 44, 2023-5044, 2301 John F. Kennedy Boulevard, JPC Group, Inc., moot complied.
Moot complied. Thank you.
Number 45, 2023-5046, 8301 Torresdale Avenue, RG Torresdale LLC, moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 47, 2023-5063, 1500 Chestnut Street, Melissa Impagliazzo, moot complied.
Okay. Thank you.
Number 48, 2023-5065, 5503 Willows Avenue, Fearless Transports LLC, moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 49, ending in 5101, 2120 North 11th Street, Venture Realty Investments LLC, moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 50, 2023-5103, 5302-04 Rising Sun Avenue, Venera Properties LLC. That is a appellant's continuance request unopposed by the city.
Okay, so is this the first listing of this or second listing?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. All righty. So we'll note it as continued. Thank you.
This was the first listing and it was continued administratively.
So noted. Okay, thank you.
Next is 51, 2023-5198, 3148 Reach Street, Aisha Mohammed, moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 52, 2024-23, 2728 Earp Street, Melissa Impagliazzo, moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 53, ending in 2024-24, 4444 North Marshall Street, Melissa Impagliazzo, moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 55, 2023-3812.
Just a minute, Mr. Kelly. I think we need an interpreter on this one.
Yes.
Do we have the Ukrainian interpreter present? Do we have a Ukrainian interpreter?
Ukrainian interpreter is speaking.
Okay, sir, would you put your name on the record, please? Spell your last name.
Yes. My name is Nikolai, Nikolay, Dorokhov, Dorokhov.
Okay,
ID number HA523.
thank you. If you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. Sir, do you swear or affirm to faithfully translate into Ukrainian the proceedings regarding HA 2023-003-812-9304 Voights Lane, Ludmila Koval?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you, sir. So for this point forward, as the information is announced in English, if you would translate to Ukrainian. And before we do that, would you call for Ludmila Koval? Ask her if she's present.
Людмила Коваль, ви присутні на засіданні? Людмила Коваль.
Okay, no one's responding, but we still want you to interpret for us, please. Mr. Kelly?
Yep, this is number 55, 3812, 9304 Voights Lane, Ludmila Koval, moot complied.
Okay,
Справа номер 553812 за адресою 9304 Voights Lane. Її статус призначено як перенесено, виконано.
okay, thank you very much. Mr. Kelly, is that it?
You're welcome.
That's all.
Okay,
There's
sir.
actually, there's one more case, but that's all.
Yeah,
from that
Well,
one.
for the Ukrainian, sir, thank you very
Yep.
much for your time today. I think that's your excuse.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now, we do have for this next, what's the next one that you have, Mr. Kelly?
Just the last one on my list is 56.
Okay, and I believe that one requires a Cantonese interpreter. So is there a Cantonese interpreter present?
Yes, this is the Cantonese interpreter here. My name is Kate. My ID number is G as a George, B as a boy, 055.
Your last name, please?
Wang, W-A-N-G.
Okay, thank you. If you would raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to faithfully translate the proceedings regarding HA-2023-003-854-324 North 10th Street, Minyu Zhao, into from Cantonese to English and English to Cantonese?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Would you mind them requesting the appearance of Minyu Zhao, M-E-I-N-U-Z-H-A-O?
Menu 就姓趙嗰個人喺咪度啊？我哋而家到廣東話，你喺度係咪啊？係，我今日幫你做翻譯嚇，請你用簡單完整嘅句子，比較容易翻譯，所有嘢都保密。OK？
Okay.
唔該晒。
All right, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Would you now proceed to read that in?
Sure. This is number 56, ending in 3854. The address is 324 North 10th Street, May New Zhao, moot.
係咁咧，就係關於56個檔案，跟住個檔案號碼354，個地址係324北邊10街。咁咧就係你哋廟宇，你哋呢個係要搬走啊，係咪啊？
搬走唔係，佢係一個行車嚟啊！佢以前俾罰單，我哋話我哋做生意嘅，但係我哋攞嘅行車仲係自己停車嘅。
Yeah, I used that as a parking space.
Okay, the matter has been resolved, is moot, so he's excused. The matter's resolved.
嚇，已經處理咗啦，成件事就已經整好晒，所以你已經可以退庭啦，唔使再商議噶啦。
OK，我唔明白，你講多次。
Okay, I can't really hear the interpreter. Can the interpreter repeat it one more time？就係成個件事咧已經處理好啦，唔需要再整噶啦，已經搞掂晒啦，佢哋幫你判好咗噶啦。
哦，佢哋判咗 OK，但係佢有結果寄俾我哋啦，係咪？
Will you guys mail like a letter, like result everything to us later?
Okay, Mr. Kelly, can you respond to the, or maybe it's Mr. Wade should respond to the issue of the decision letter.
Yes, a notice of decision will be mailed out.
係啊，佢會寄封信啊，詳細情況都喺入邊噶啦。
OK，咁我哋今日做完咗未？
So, is it done now?
Yes.
係啊，搞掂啦。
OK，咁唔該晒你啊。
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, have a good afternoon.
Okay,
You
bye-bye.
excuse. Okay. Thank you, Madam, Ms. Wayne. Thank you very much. You excuse as well.
Sure, thank you so much for using our services. You have a good day.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye. Okay, Mr. Kelly, is that in your list of resolved matters
That's all that I have, although I do see some colleagues with their hands up that may have
Okay.
theirs.
already? As normal procedure, I will call based on who has the raised hands and signal. I guess Mr. Cohen was first. Mr. Cohen?
Good afternoon, members of the board. I'd like to call the board's attention to case number 1 on the list. Appeal HA 2023-001189. Appellant's counsel has a conflict later today, so we had previously requested and sent to the board's administration a request to have this heard first.
Okay.
Appellant's counsel is Augusta O'Neill, who should be, I did see her on
Good
today's,
afternoon.
Zoom here.
I'm on. Thanks so
Okay.
much.
Okay, just before we prepare to call in, Ms. O'Neill, was there a request for a continuance today?
There was a request for a continuance, and I'd be happy to go through the backstory and explain.
Well, but let me ask you this: are you prepared to
Sure.
go forward, though? That's really the only issue. Are you prepared to move forward today?
We are prepared to move forward. I believe that Councilman Young is on the line also because there's actually a legislative fix that we're working on to hopefully avoid having to use the board's time on this matter, which I believe we can resolve without
Okay,
having
Mr.
to-
Cohen, should there be a breakout room discussion, or what do we need to do?
Appellant's counsel and I have actually already had an opportunity to discuss prior to the hearing. The city is opposed to the continuance since this is the third hearing in the matter. The city doesn't want to see a fourth.
Okay, let's do this.
Essentially,
Yeah, we
sorry,
want
essentially the city's position is that it is currently unlawful, and if there is a legislative fix put in later that would make it lawful, that would be fine going forward from that date.
Okay,
But as it's
yeah.
currently unlawful, the city would like to see current compliance.
Okay, let's do this. Are you prepared to go forward, Mr. Cohen?
That's fine. Yes.
Okay, we're gonna go forward. We'll call it as quickly as we can, as soon as we get these preliminary matters resolved. Okay,
Thank you kindly, members of the board.
Oh,
All right.
I believe also, sorry to interrupt, Conlon Crossley from the councilman's office is also on. I just wanted to,
he will be called when we call the case.
okay, thank you.
Okay, alrighty. Mr. Roder. Leonard Roder.
Good afternoon. May it please the board, Leonard F. Reuter, Senior Attorney for the City of Philadelphia.
Yes.
Great. I just have a few matters to address on the list. Numbers 14 and 15. My understanding is that the attorney, Adam Nachmani, had a scheduling conflict and requested a continuance. The city doesn't oppose that. I don't know if you've already granted that in executive session.
We saw the request, but needed to hear from the city to determine how to proceed.
Yeah, I didn't realize. Apparently a message was sent to me on Monday. I didn't see that, but I got the information this morning that he had requested the continuance. Just before the hearing, I sent a response that the city wouldn't oppose the continuance, so that's fine.
Okay, and just one last thing: is there an existing cease operations in place at this address?
So I don't want to get into the merits or the substance of the case too much, but the appeal is being brought by the owner. This is Mr. Lieberman, or Mr. Joseph Lieberman, and I guess their partners are the owners of the property. The cease operations was on the tenant. They're actually, I think this was just a prophylactic appeal for them. They're actually in the process of evicting that tenant.
Okay.
So, but yes.
So there's no public crisis,
No.
no health and safety, none of those issues.
No.
Okay. We will note actually, there are two matters. There's HA 2023-004-832, 816 Chestnut Street as continued. And number 15, HA 2023-004-881, 816 Chestnut Street. Both will be continued.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
also number 21, HA 2023-004870 for 200 Sumac Street. I'm informed that the fire escape summary report was submitted, so this matter can be marked moot complied.
Moot complied. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I don't know if Mr. Laughlin is in the audience, but you're in compliance. You can go.
Thank you. Okay.
Sure. Unfortunately, number 33, HA 2023-004951, that's 2051 North 9th Street. The appellant is Maria Ngoyan. The city has to ask for continuance here for unavailability of our witness who's in training.
Okay. Is the appellant present, Maria Nguyen?
We did send an email notifying her of the request yesterday. I didn't receive a response. Actually, we had reached out to her previously to see if she needed a Cambodian interpreter, and I didn't get a response to that either. I don't know if the board ever has had any contacts with her.
Well, not certain of that, but for today though, we will note this matter as continued. If she does arrive, we will explain it to her. So we'll continue it for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, their number 54, HA 2024-002258, 6901 Woodland Avenue. Ms. Verliger, who represents the appellant, asked for a continuance. This has been continued before, but the city doesn't oppose this continuance because the zoning permit was approved by the zoning board, but their decision letter had not gone out yet. So we will agree to the continuance. I don't know if Ms. Verliger is present.
Yes, is Ms. Verliger present?
I spoke with her and told her that it was going to be continued.
Okay, all
That's
right.
fine.
We'll note it for the record as continued. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ryan Kiger.
Good afternoon, Ryan Kiger on behalf of the city of Philadelphia. For number 40 ending in 5006, 5516 West Oxford Street. That's going to be a settlement for a city affirm with a 30-day stay of enforcement.
City affirm, 30-day stay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? I guess not. Okay. Caitlin Carmody.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I had one matter that I wanted to raise briefly, unless you wanted to call it an order. Appeal number 20 for 5222 Paschal Avenue. This hearing or this appeal would require an attorney. I don't know if anyone is present for the matter, but I just wanted to raise the issue early on, just in the essence of time, and to just my witness knows.
Well, let's call Anna Neal, 5222 Paschal Avenue. Are you present? Anna Neal, are you present? Okay, no one's responding. And I will note for the record that this is an LLC, which requires legal counsel to be represented before the board. Ms. Carmody, what is your pleasure in this instance?
The city would request a city affirm for non-appearance. I'm also happy to call it an order if the board would prefer to wait.
Let's call it an order and we'll get to it fairly quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty. I think that's all of our preliminary matters, unless someone else has something. Just let me check my list.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Chairman,
there's a Mason Avenger with his hand raised, trying
Yes.
to attract your
Good
attention.
afternoon,
Sir, what is your matter?
Mr. Chairman. May I be heard? I have a matter. I represent someone named Jose Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez is on the Zoom. This matter is number 2023-04911. It was not on the list that Mr. Kelly called, but it was set for hearing today.
What address is it?
The address, sir, is 1125-55 Stanwood Street.
Just one moment.
I'm sorry, it's gonna be 1118R-32 Solly. It's a dual property.
Okay, who's speaking?
This is Jose Rodriguez. Sorry for interrupting.
The owner of the property, sir.
Okay, but because we're trying to create a record here, everybody who speaks has to be identified.
Okay, I
Sorry.
apologize, this is Mason Avergan speaking again. There are two addresses, 1125-55 Stanwood Street, which is on the notice of violation. There's also an address 1118R-32 Solly, Solly Avenue.
Okay, just one moment. I don't see that address. Mr. Wade, can you
Case
help me
number
out here?
27.
27? Okay, okay, I think who's the attorney for the city on this matter? Have you had a conversation, Mr.
Avergan,
Avergan, with the city's attorney?
I did not have that. I just got contacted yesterday, and we wrote a letter advising the board of that and requesting a continuance. I'd be happy to speak with the city attorney, but I
Okay.
don't know his or her name.
Okay, who's representing the city in this matter, number 27? 1118R-32 Solly Avenue?
That's correct.
Who's representing the city? Okay,
Hi,
would someone,
hi, pardon me, this is Leonard Reuter.
okay, Mr. Reuter, would it be appropriate for you to have a conversation with, in breakout room with, Mr. Avergan?
Sure.
Okay, so what we'll do, Mr. Wade, you put them in the breakout room, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez as well.
Yeah, I would guess, I assume so.
Yes, please.
Len, do you have a inspector?
Yes, just a moment. Let's see if he's here. I don't know if he's here right now.
Well, the other thing, Mr. Oh, go ahead,
Go ahead.
please.
No.
The board also has a concern about timeliness in this matter. There's about 3 months from the notice of appeal to the issue to the appeal notice of the violation to the issue to the request for an appeal. About 3 months. That's a major issue for us.
Thank you. Mr. Wade, I'll reach out to you if I can get the inspector.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. I gave you the breakout.
Okay. Does anyone else have any issues that we need to get to? If not, we will call our first matter.
Case number 1. Hearing appeal ending 1189-1716 Chestnut Street, Tuscan Realty of PA, LLC.
Jeffrey Cohen for the city of Philadelphia. Good afternoon, members of the board.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon. Members of the board, my name is Augusta O'Neill. I'm with the law firm of Claire Harrison and Harvey Brandsburg. I'm appearing on behalf of the appellant Tuscan Realty LLC.
Okay, we will now swear in our witnesses. Mr. Cohen, you have any witnesses?
Yes, L&I Representative Ronald Davis and Streets Department Representative Michelle Brisbane.
Okay, and Michelle Brisbane. Okay, just one moment. Would both of you kindly raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. I see Mr. Davis. I'm looking for Ms. Brisbane. Okay, now I see her as well. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth to her, Ms. Brisbane?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Thank you. You can place your hands down. All right. Does the appellant have any witnesses?
I do.
Ms. O'Neill. Yes. Your witnesses are Ms. O'Neill?
My first witness is Mr. Conlon Crossley.
Okay. Ms. Crossley, are you present?
See, his hand is raised.
For some reason, I'm not seeing him.
I see him on the-
He needs to put his name on the record so then the screen will flip to me. Okay.
Oh, there we go. He just unmuted.
Okay. I don't see him though. Am I missing something?
Conlon, can you speak and let the board know that you're going to be one of the witnesses so they can swear you in?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Not very easily. There's a echo.
I apologize.
Kyle, you have to drop one device. You're on two devices.
Hi, can you hear me better?
No, you
no,
have to hang up one of the devices. You can only be on one device.
I can't see anyone other than a name, Mr. Chairman.
yes, we'll need to have him turn his video on as well.
While Mr. Crossley's working out these technical issues, do you want me to
Okay,
have my other
yes.
two witnesses sworn in?
Yes.
Okay. My other witness is the property owner, Mr. Ricardo Longo.
Okay,
Uh,
same thing. We'll need that person to identify himself, put his name on the record so we can see him.
Ricardo, if you could unmute and identify yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Ricardo Longo from
Okay.
Tuscan Realty Group.
Raise your right hand, sir, so that you may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth so help you God?
I do, thank you.
All right, thank you. You can place your hand down. You have a third witness?
I do. Mr. Jeffrey Delaquila is on the line as well. He's the architect that created the structure that brings us here today.
Okay. Again, we'll need to have that
Yes,
person.
hello. This is Jeff Delaquila here with Stokes Architecture.
Okay, sir, you'll need to unmute and turn on your video.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you,
Yes.
but I can't see you.
Okay. Yes, unfortunately, I do not have access to video. I was not able to make accommodations for video at the time.
Okay. Ms. O'Neill, can you confirm that this is in fact your witness?
Yes, this is Mr. Delaquila.
Okay. Any objections, Mr. Cohen?
Well, if Ms. O'Neill can give sort of an offer of proof as to the substance of the testimony, it may not necessarily be required.
Mr. Delaquila is on the line just to testify to the regulations that existed back in 2020 that he designed the streetery to.
I mean, the city has no objection to stipulating that under the COVID era regulations, this structure was approved and given a temporary building permit. The city's issue today is mainly that those regulations have expired and there is no current regulation or law in place allowing it currently. With a stipulation that it was under regulations in the COVID era, that it was valid, would that be okay?
Well, I mean, I would like to hear the city's presentation before I make a determination. I mean, I might have a different reason to call Mr.
Let's do
Delaquila.
this. Let's do this. Let's do this. So we don't get into protracted preliminaries here. We'll proceed. We'll hold off on Mr. Delaquila until we get to that point if you need to call him. And then we will make a determination. In the interim, though, Mr. Delaquila, are you using a smartphone?
Yes, I am.
Smartphones have access to this opportunity, and they also have video. So you should be able to hit video. Am I
believe that
not seeing you?
Mr. Delaquila is dialing in. So when you dial in, as opposed to using the Zoom app, you can't get your camera up.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize.
Right.
Mr. Chair, if I could also just renew my request for a continuance that I had made at the outset. I just also wanted to know, I did receive the exhibits from the city last night. They are due 5 days in advance of the hearing. I really like a continuance for a number of reasons, which I would be happy to get into if you would be.
Well, in this instance, this is the third listing of this matter, so we aren't going to continue. We're going to go with it today. Okay.
I believe that.
That's my current ruling. We're going to go with it unless this because we've continued and continued and continued. We're going to do this again. We will hear it. If there's a need during the hearing to make a different decision, we will do that. But I want to get this, of course, as much as this on the record now as we can, to be fair to all parties.
Understood.
Okay. Alrighty, let's do this. There's a person with his hand raised. I'm not sure who that is. There's no name. So, sir, before we get started, are you raising your hand regarding this matter or something else?
Hi, sir. This is Conlon Crosley. I am raising my hand about this matter. I was having some technical issues from my computer, so
Oh,
I
okay.
logged in from my smartphone.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, so we need to then swear you in, Mr. Crosley. There's no name on the screen, so that's why I didn't know who you were.
I apologize.
Please raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give today be the truth so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. You can place your hand down. Okay, we'll go to Mr. Cohen now. Mr. Cohen, please proceed.
Thank you very much. I would point out for the record that in the email that I sent yesterday with the city's exhibits, all of the exhibits are either publicly available documents or documents that were already in the possession of Tuscan Realty and the appellant.
Okay, let's proceed.
So the city's issue in this case is that there is a structure blocking part of the sidewalk at 1716 Chestnut Street that is not lawful under the current laws, the laws being streeteries and sidewalk cafes. If Grand Cafe L'Aquila would like to put up a streetery, it must do so in a parking lane. If it wishes to put up a sidewalk cafe, which it does have a license for, it can put tables and chairs on the sidewalk. But one of the clear black letter law issues with a sidewalk cafe is that these tables and chairs must be movable objects, cannot be a permanent structure. However, under the COVID era regulations, back when we were prioritizing outdoor seating and availability for people to use outdoor breezy seating, tables and chairs, we did allow this type of structure. And in fact, there was a building permit for this temporary structure that was issued by the Department of L&I to block part of the sidewalk at that time. All of those regulations have since been rescinded. In fact, in those regulations themselves, in multiple places, the city went to great pains to say this is a temporary authorization. These authorizations will expire. And the most recent of those applicable regulations said they will expire as of December 31st, 2022. That's why in February of 2023, the Streets Department sent out this notice of violation saying essentially, you are blocking the sidewalk. You are not allowed to have this permanent structure any longer. We are here today because the appellant is trying to delay and kick the can and try to keep the structure in place as long as possible until they can change the law. But there's no guarantee that they will be able to change the law. And frankly, the job of this board is not to anticipate changes of law. The job of this board is to determine, is this lawful under the current law or not? And the real kicker for me in all of this is it's not actually the tables and chairs that are unlawful. If Grand Cafe L'Aquila and Tuscan Realty were to remove the structure but keep the same number of tables and chairs on the sidewalk, that would be perfectly fine. It would be comporting and complying with the sidewalk cafe law. But they want to keep a permanent structure that blocks part of the sidewalk and that is not comporting and complying with current law. So the city's position is this should be city affirmed.
Okay. You have any witnesses, sir?
Well, let's give the appellant an opportunity to give an opening, and then the city can bring up witnesses.
Okay. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes. Would it be all right if I shared my screen just so I can bring up a picture of the structure that we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Members of the board, this is not a situation where my client violated any codes willingly. We're before you here because my client has been a restaurateur in the city, operating Grand Cafe L'Aquila since 2014. There's never been a question that he has operated pursuant to the city's rules. He's paid taxes. He's kept a lot of people employed at his restaurant. This restaurant is a fixture on Chestnut Street. He managed to survive COVID-19, unlike a lot of businesses that did succumb to the pandemic. Unfortunately, though, it was the COVID-19 regulations that have created the circumstances that bring us here today. During the pandemic, the city allowed restaurateurs like my client to operate streeteries outdoors. And that was to make up for the fact that at the time, Mayor Kenny had put a ban on indoor dining. So my client, in reliance on those regulations, hired an architect. He followed all the rules. He spent close to $100,000 putting up the streetery that's on the screen in front of you. And he's been operating it since the spring of 2021. Since the time that he's had this streetery in operation, there have been no issues with pedestrians being able to traverse the sidewalk. There's sufficient ADA clearance. The streetery does not interfere with the bus that has a stop on Chestnut Street. My client is in a unique position because the streetery, unlike other areas of the city, he doesn't have a parking lane to put this streetery in. His only choice, unfortunately, is to have this streetery up on the sidewalk. There's no question that the neighborhood is in support of the streetery. In my exhibit package, I did provide a number of letters from neighbors. I personally met with the RCO for this property, the Center City Residents Association, in March of this year. They voted to support it. At the meeting, I received a lot of comments about how it improved public safety. The neighbors felt like because it created eyes on the street. And in fact, a lot of the members of that RCO themselves were frequent patrons of the streetery. That letter of support from CCRA does appear at Exhibit G of the exhibit package that I previously provided the board. The neighboring property owners include DeBruno Brothers, Sephora, Jacobs Music. They're also completely in support of the streetery. They want to see it maintained. Councilman Young's office is willing to work with us on the legislation. We are working on an ordinance right now. I've already started drafting one. And, you know, I understand the city's position that they don't want the streetery to be in the right of way. That's what Mr. Cohen has stated, but there's no emergency here. My client's been operating it without issue for over 2.5 years. There's no work that's being planned on Chestnut Street, any kind of public utility work that would, you know, create any kind of urgent reason for it to have to be removed. So there's just really no plausible reason, in my opinion, why we can't just keep the status quo. And so because of that, we're just looking for this board to give us a continuance of hopefully a year, at least 6 months, so that we can work on getting some legislation done. Again, because this has been an extreme expense for my client. And he relied in good faith on the regulations that existed at the time. And I would submit to the board that, you know, just to help a small business owner in the city, it would be a real devastation to him to have to remove the streetery.
Thank you.
I
Okay, Mr. Cohen?
would just add for the board that this board does not have equitable powers. So we're not discussing equitable relief or even enforcement actions at this point. We're just discussing, is this lawful under the current law or not?
Okay.
So with that, I would like to share my screen to go over what the law says and what was during the COVID era allowable.
Mr. Cohen, are you using a witness?
Yes, though I'm attempting to find out how I would be able to share something on my screen. Please forgive me.
Go to the bottom, it says share. Is that not?
There we, sorry, no, the button moved around since last I checked. One moment. All right, can everyone see what's currently on my screen?
Yes, just magnify it a bit, please. Yes.
Excellent. All right, I would like to first start with what is currently on the books. This is the law as it happens for 9208 sidewalk cafes and 9215 streeteries, starting on page 12 in the city's packet. Essentially, a sidewalk cafe is an open air space on the public sidewalk. Open air meaning there is no structure enclosing what tables and chairs are on the sidewalk. You can serve food at tables and chairs with this license. You cannot put a structure up with this license.
Okay, Mr. Cohen, just for a moment. I'm getting some background conversation from someone. Mr. Wade, if you could help me out. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. In order to get this license, you need to meet the requirements in subsection 6 of 9208, and I'll scroll down. The first requirement of subsection 6A is all parts of a sidewalk cafe must be easily removable. Moving on to what a streetery is, it is outdoor dining that includes structures that are in the right of way, but more importantly for a streetery, It may only be located in the parking lane portion of the right-of-way. And as Ms. O'Neill did point out, Chestnut Street on that particular block, 1716 sits on the south side of the block. The parking lane is on the opposite, the north side of that block. So they can't put a streetery there unless they would put it all the way across Chestnut Street, across 2 lanes of traffic. And just for the board's edification, the notice of violation that the Streets Department issued, which we will go over, does refer to 11602. That simply is a provision about blocking the sidewalk and parts of the right-of-way. No structure shall be put in the street or right-of-way except in accordance with that chapter. And one of the main issues in that chapter is that authorization is temporary. Temporary closures of a sidewalk, temporary structures or pieces of the sidewalk blocked off. And if the department finds that the closure is no longer necessary for the activity for which the permit is issued, then it can go away. And that's what actually brings us back to the COVID era regulations, starting on page 22 in the packet. I'm not going to belabor this. There are a lot of regulations that were issued during the COVID era. I'm just going to go over the relevant parts. So here on page 23, we have the June 10th, 2020 emergency regulations for outdoor dining. This is where it started in the COVID era. Eating and drinking establishments may use, under a valid zoning permit, outdoor locations. This wasn't where they started implementing the streetery regulation. That comes a bit later, but this is where the initial authorization stems from. And of course, even with this initial authorization in 2020, temporary uses are known to be temporary, and they are in no event going to extend beyond December 31st of 2020. That was actually extended twice to December 31st of 2021 and 2022, as I'll show you in subsequent regulations in the exhibits packet. Sorry, jumping to 27. Oh, I apologize. 27, not 7. This is the yellow phase reopening amendment as it pertains to outdoor dining. As of June 12th of 2020, that's when outdoor dining was authorized under the yellow phase agreement. This must be entirely outdoor dining as of June of 2020, because as of June of 2020, we were not contemplating any indoor uses. It was entirely outdoors, which means that the city was under an impetus to expand what was available outdoors because indoors was no longer available at that time. And with that, let's jump down to the MDO, Managing Director's Office, temporary sidewalk cafes and streeteries authorization. And again, it defines sidewalk cafe and streetery and temporary sidewalk cafe, but the relevant portion is, on page 37, holders of temporary licenses must keep themselves apprised of all emergency orders that are being issued during the COVID-19 emergency, because as you remember, the scope of the law and the scope of our understanding of the pandemic was rapidly changing from week to week, almost during that period. So it was understood that any authorization that was issued by these regulations was only meant to be temporary. Now on page 40, we have the mayoral order modifying the green phase that was in September 8th of 2020. The only reason why I bring this up is that this was the authorization to resume indoor dining activities, subject to lots of health restrictions like masking of servers and social distancing. But this was the first time in the pandemic where we were doing hybrids of outdoor and indoor seating and eating. Page 46, this is an amendment to the MDO regulations about sidewalk cafes and streeteries. The regulations shall apply to anything from issued January 1st, 2021 through December 31st of 2021. I bring that up because the temporary structure approval that was issued for Grand Cafe La Ocula was actually in March of 2021. So it would have been issued under these specific regulations.
Jeff,
Yes.
Jeff, I believe the chair dropped off for a minute, so you may have to
Okay.
pause for a second.
If you could please tell me when he comes back.
I
I'm just gonna
believe
queue up.
I believe
Oh.
I'm back now. My apologies, everyone. My system did what it does, so my apologies. Mr. Cohen, we're right in the middle of you on this last section, I believe, describing the streets department rules regarding temporary structures.
Yes, so this currently on screen is the December 29th, 2020 MDO amended regulations for streeteries. And this is actually the regulation under which Grand Cafe La Aquila's streetery was issued. And you can even see it here. To place anything in the right of way, further permits and city approval are needed, and that approval is needed prior to erecting anything in the right of way. And this is the approval that they did get, and we'll go over with their March 2021 temporary structure permit. And also a building permit is required for any rigid overhead covering that is directly applicable to the structure that they've built on Chestnut Street. And again, you see this, holders of temporary licenses must keep themselves apprised of the changing scope of health orders in the pandemic. And now you also have added in, no authorization granted under these regulations constitutes permanent use approval. The city was already in December of 2020 apprising everyone who wanted to get these streetery and sidewalk cafe licenses. This is temporary. It is not a permanent thing. You cannot expect this to be a permanent approval. And here we have the L&I regulations for amended regulations for outdoor dining issued on December 30th of 2020. So the day after the MDO regulation we just looked at. It also extends the temporary use permit from December 31st of 2020 to December 31st of 2021. And similarly, this is the December 16th, 2021 L&I regulation, and you'll see the same. Temporary use permitted shall now be extended to December 31st, 2022. And these regulations shall sort of apply retroactively and extend the time permits to anything up to December 31st, 2022. And finally, these are the last MDO regulations that were issued during that period, December 31st of 2021. The regulations apply to anything that was issued before December 31st, 2021. So it does apply to the approval that was issued for Grand Cafe La Aquila. And operation of any temporary sidewalk cafe after December 31st, 2021 constitutes an agreement to these provisions. And of course, this also extends everything from 2021 to the end of 2022. And of course, holders of temporary licenses must keep themselves apprised of changing executive and emergency orders. And no authorization granted under these regulations shall constitute a permanent use approval. Essentially, the law during COVID was meant to be temporary. It was announced to everyone getting those permits and licenses that it was temporary and that it expired after extensions on December 31st of 2022. And with that, I would call Michelle Brisbane of the Streets Department as my first witness.
Okay.
And just for the record, Ms. Brisbane, have you been previously sworn?
Yes, I have.
Could you please tell the board who you currently work for and in what capacity? I'm sorry, you are on mute at the moment.
Okay.
There you go, much better.
Sorry about that.
So it's not a problem. I'll ask again. Can you please tell the board who you work for and in what capacity?
Okay, I work for the Department of Streets and I am the Chief of Staff.
And through the course of your duties for the Streets Department, have you reviewed the investigative file for 1716 Chestnut Street?
Yes.
Scrolling down to page 3 in this packet is this a photograph of 1716 Chestnut Street?
Yes.
I'm just for the record, in the upper left-hand corner, what's the date of this photo?
October 11th, 2023.
And are photos that are taken and kept by the cyclomedia.phila.gov system, are those photos that the city keeps in the ordinary course of its business?
Yes.
And are the photos taken by someone pursuant to their duties, their ordinary duties under the cyclomedia system?
That I'm not sure.
Or well, I should ask, are they taken by someone in accordance with their duties for the city of Philadelphia?
Yes.
And is this a fair and accurate depiction of the Sidewalk Cafe outside of Cafe Grand Lafayette?
Yes.
So what is the streets department claiming is at issue with this structure on the sidewalk?
So the issue is it's a structure, not just tables and chairs. And by code, anything that we deem a sidewalk cafe is tables and chairs only. We don't permit structures on the sidewalk.
And you said tables and chairs. Is there a requirement that those tables and chairs need to be removable?
Correct. They need to be removable. Yes.
And scrolling down to the next page, page 4 in the city's packet, what is this document that I have on screen?
That is the notice of violation that was sent to the business in 2023. Excuse me. I just want to turn my light back on.
Just for the record, any highlighting that is in these documents or in any other section in the city's exhibits packet are not in the original. They were added for emphasis, and they can also be hidden or removed. And just for the record, Ms. Brisbane, is this case number SC 2023-006?
Yes.
And is this a document that the streets department keeps in the ordinary course of its business?
Yes.
And is this something that a streets department employee or investigator would create through the course of their ordinary duties?
Yes.
And was this issued because, and I'm reading from the text here, the streets department found an unlicensed streetery and an illegal structure in connection with the above property encroaching in the right of way?
Yes.
And scrolling down to page 5, what were, if any, what were the violations that the streets department issued for this structure?
So we issued for an unlicensed streetery and also for an illegal encroachment.
If you could explain the illegal encroachment part.
So the illegal encroachment would be the structure that is shown in the photographs.
By encroachment, does that mean something that is placed on the sidewalk as part of the right-of-way?
Yes.
And just for the board's records, page 7 is the copy of the blur appeal that was filed by the appellants. So what is the streets department looking for to comply these two violations?
We are looking for the business to remove the structure.
If the structure were, well, never mind, I won't ask that question. By removing the structure, does that mean that the business would be able to keep the tables and chairs that are currently inside the structure?
If they have a sidewalk cafe license, they can have tables and chairs in accordance with their sidewalk cafe license.
And just as an offer of proof for the board, the sidewalk cafe license, which is currently active, is one of the city's exhibits. We'll get to with the L&I representative. So Ms. Brisbane, one last question for you on direct. Is the current issue that the streets department, or never mind, let me rephrase it this way. Under the current law, does the structure need to be removed, but the tables and chairs can stay?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I would present Ms. Brisbane for cross. Ms. O'Neill, I don't know if you want to use the city's exhibits. I can leave them on screen if you like, or I can stop sharing my screen.
I'll have a few brief questions for this witness.
Okay.
So, good afternoon. Uh, Ms. Brisbane, I just had a question, a handful of questions. In 2021, when my client received permits for this structure, was it legal when the permits were issued back then? Under the regulations that existed at that time?
Streets Department doesn't issue the permits, L&I does.
Does Streets Department comment on the permits before they get issued?
During the emergency, I'm not even sure what the process was at that time.
Okay. So would you agree with me though that the structure where it currently is, it's not in the cartway, meaning it's not in the street where vehicles are driving?
It's not in the cartway.
Okay. Have you received or are you aware of any complaints about anyone being able to traverse that sidewalk next to where the streetery is located?
So in my capacity, I would not know if any complaints existed.
Okay. And are you aware, were you listening earlier when when I made the representation on the record that we are working with the councilman's office to come up with an ordinance to legalize the structure?
Did I hear that? Yes, I heard that.
Prior to that, were you aware that we were working on legislation to get this legalized?
No, I was not aware of that.
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's go on. Any additional witnesses?
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Brisbane. The city calls L&I Representative Ronald Davis.
Okay.
And I'm going to share my screen again. If you'll just permit me one moment.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Davis, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
And can you see what I currently have on my screen?
Yes.
Excuse me, this is board council Remy Sure. Has this witness been sworn in?
Yes, he's been sworn in. Yes.
Okay. Thank
Mr.
you.
Cohen, make sure he identify himself, please.
That actually was going to be my next question. After, have you been previously sworn? If you could please identify yourself for the record.
Sure. Ronald Davis, License and Inspection, Litigation Support Unit.
And how long have you worked for L&I in that capacity?
With this unit for maybe going on 4 years. I also was an inspector for 8 years.
Thank you. That takes care of my follow-up question. In your capacity for the L&I Litigation Support Unit, have you reviewed the city's records, or this L&I's record specifically for 1716 Chestnut Street?
Yes.
And I'm going to jump now to page 80 in the packet. What is this that I currently have on screen that I will enlarge? One moment.
Okay, what's showing right here is the Eclipse system that the department used for users to like apply for licenses, trade licenses, pay for a license, link license to the online user, and also you could download, save, and print.
And is this specifically, are these listed the licenses that are that were or are currently issued for 1716 Chestnut Street?
Yes.
And actually scrolling down now, what is this document that I have on screen?
This is the 3123 Sidewalk Cafe license.
And is this for the subject premises at 1716 Chestnut?
Yes.
Is this a document L&I keeps in the ordinary course of its business?
Yes.
And is the information entered into this document entered by the applicant and then entered into the system by an L&I employee through the course of their duties?
Yes.
And is this a currently active license for a Sidewalk Cafe at 1716 Chestnut?
Yes. It actually expires April 30th of 2025.
Thank you. And what is this that I have on my screen?
Okay, this is also the Eclipse. This is the permit search address. And this is what's highlighted is the commercial building permit and the permit number and the location. And it shows the status that it expired.
Actually, I'm going to scroll down to the next page. And if you could tell me, what is this document that I have on screen?
Also, this is a notice of commercial building permit for the 1716 Chestnut Street.
And when was this permit issued?
Can you enlarge it just
Yes,
a
of
little?
course.
Date issue was March 9th, 2021.
And for the record, the approved scope of work here, does it read for the erection of a temporary structure in the right of way for use as restaurant seating?
That's correct.
And is this a type of document that L&I keeps in the ordinary course of its business?
Yes.
And is the information that's entered into this document entered by the permit applicant and then entered by an L&I employee into the system through the course of their ordinary duties?
That's correct.
And then finally, down here on page 87, is this the approved plan that corresponds to the permit we were just looking at? And just for the record, I'm going to highlight down here in the lower left-hand corner, is that the stamp of approval?
Yes, on March 9th, 2021.
And on the next page, page 88, I have blown up this sort of bottom right-hand portion of this plan. Is this an accurate plan that shows, or does it match what it was actually built that you can see in the photograph on page 3 in the exhibits packet?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. And is it your understanding that this permit was issued under temporary COVID-19 approvals?
Yes, that is correct.
So was that permit ever meant to give a permanent permit or permanent approval of that structure?
No.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Davis. I would present him for cross-examination and maybe reserve a little for redirect if necessary. Ms. O'Neill, do you want me to keep this on my screen or take it off?
I actually have no cross for this witness.
Okay.
And in the interest of time, I would like to get my my client so I can do his direct.
Okay, well, let's see what
thank
Mr.
you.
Cohen has next.
Well, the city actually has no further witnesses. We would just move the city's exhibits packet into evidence, just the entire thing, because the middle part is all law. The first part was covered with Ms. Brisbane and the last part was covered with Mr. Davis.
So noted.
Thank you.
The evidence is submitted. Okay, Ms. O'Neill, you will call your first witness.
Yes, my first witness this afternoon is Mr. Ricardo Longo.
Okay.
Has already been sworn.
Yes.
Mr. Longo, could you provide for the board your title with Tuscan Realty LLC?
So Tuscan Realty is actually the sort of real estate portion of our investment here. I'm actually the I run the Grand Cafe L'Aquila, which is the restaurant, but I have an interest in both. But you know, the use of this structure obviously is for the restaurant, Grand Cafe L'Aquila, and I'm a founding partner and one of the owners of the business.
Can you tell us how long you've been in the restaurant business in general?
Sure. So I've been in the restaurant business over 30 years. We've had restaurants all over the city, from the Northeast to University City to here in Center City. And you know, over that time period. And currently we operate Grand Cafe L'Aquila here at 17th and Chestnut, as well as Alice on 15th and Locust.
Okay. And how long have you operated Grand Cafe at 1716?
So Grand Cafe L'Aquila, well, it's a special project here because it took us, you know, we bought the building in 2011, but it took us about 3 years actually to build out the space because, you know, we wanted to make this very authentic Italian project for the city. So we had the entire place designed and built in Italy and shipped over here and basically installed with American architects and engineers that made sure that everything was to code. So the project has been in action 12 to 13 years, but the actual restaurant's been open about 10 years.
Okay, so it's been open since 2014 then?
So 2014 is when we actually opened the doors, yeah.
So 6 years after you opened the doors, COVID hit. Can you tell the board about the impact that the pandemic had on your business in 2020?
It was a devastation because
unfortunately the city has to object. We're talking about the encroachment that's on the sidewalk. We're not delving into the finances of the business.
Okay, Ms. O'Neill, based on, I will sustain an objection and ask that you would narrow your questioning, because this really isn't about financial hardship. It's about whether or not the permits, the violation notices were properly issued and whether the city followed its rules and regulations.
Well, Your Honor, or I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I wanted to just have my client kind of go into the background of why
I heard you, but I'm asking you to narrow that.
Okay.
Because I also saw on the permit that was issued, the estimated cost was $20,000, whereas you've indicated on the record that it was a $100,000 project. But that's not it's not a financial issue. We're really looking at whether or not the current regs permit the structure.
Right. Well, the building permit would list the amount. It wouldn't include all the soft costs that my client would have had to incur. So the total would have cost closer to the figure that I quoted.
But that isn't, we aren't asking for that evidence, and we aren't delving into that. I'm asking you to narrow your questioning. That's all I'm doing.
Okay. Mr. Longo, could you tell the board how you learned about the city's streetery program?
So we learned about it, I believe, through notices, through the media is how I believe we learned about it. You know, for us, it was an essential thing because obviously with the economic hardships we had, it was something we wanted to do. But also being that, you know, we love this city and always try to do things to represent well. Although it's true, it showed $20,000 there as an initial expense. We put a lot of bells and whistles and made this into a beautiful structure that would represent us as well as the city well. As can be seen, you know, if you look at that, you can see that there's no way you could build that for $20,000 with everything that's in there. So whatever number was put on that initial permit is not anywhere near what was actually spent with all the costs put in there. I also would like to also say that, you know, we had additional issue in that.
Okay, Ms. O'Neill, I'm going to ask that your client respond to your questions and not do narrative testimony. Okay?
Understood, Mr. Chair. Mr. Longo, since the construction of the streetery, you've received a lot of positive feedback on that structure. Is that correct?
People love it. It's our most requested seating.
And how many people total does Grand Cafe employ right now?
We are between 65 and 70 employees here.
And how many people service the streetery?
Well, at one time, I mean, there, you know, obviously we have different rotations, but at one time when we count the service staff, support and kitchen, you know, it'll employ probably 4 people each day, each shift, you know, you'll have 4 people that are dedicated to the streetery.
And have you ever observed any issues caused for pedestrians by the structure being in the right of way?
No, everyone loves it. It's you know, I think really a great asset for the street, and that's the feedback we get from everybody, including our business neighbors, our guests, is that everyone loves it. And you know, the other issue is that there's with the crime that we have on Chestnut Street, people very much would prefer, a lot of our guests will not sit at an open table on Chestnut. They request to sit in the structure because of all the craziness. If you just walk down 15, 16, 17th Street any day, you can sort of see what's happening. And you know, we've never had any criminal incident with guests sitting in the structure, but we have continual problems with our guests sitting on the sidewalk. So this is another issue that really is a hard.
Ms. O'Neill, I have to ask you again.
It's
Please direct your client to respond directly to your question and then move on to the next question.
Okay. I believe Mr. Longo just wanted to get into the public
I understand
safety.
what he wants to do, but I'm asking you that he not be testifying in the narrative and respond to your questions.
Okay, I just have one final yes or no question for Mr. Longo before I turn over for Cross. Mr. Longo, are you aware of any upcoming utility projects or public projects that are being prevented because of your streetery being where it currently is located?
I do not.
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness, but I reserve the right to redirect.
Yeah,
based on
absolutely.
Mr.
Okay,
I also want to apologize. I didn't realize.
no, it's okay, sir.
Yeah.
That's okay. We're trying to keep the record clear.
No,
Make
that's
sure
fine.
that-
I'm just trying to
Right.
state our case, but I completely respect
No.
the parameters.
No. Witnesses do not speak out of turn. Miss O'Neill, you need to explain that. Okay, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Longo. I actually don't have any questions for you, but thank you for appearing.
Okay, thank you. Miss O'Neill, any additional witnesses?
I would only like to call Mr. Crossley forward.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon,
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Cross. Yep.
Mr. Crossley, could you state your title for the record?
Yes, my name is Conlon Crosley. I'm the Director of Labor Relations and Development for the 5th Councilmanic District under Councilman Jeffrey Young.
And you're aware of the support my client has for the structure at 1716 Chestnut Street from both neighbors with the RCO and neighboring businesses?
Yes, ma'am.
And because of that support, your office has been in touch with my office about proposing some legislation to come up with some kind of a fix so that we can get this structure legalized.
Yes, ma'am.
And would you agree with me that it's likely to take at least 6 months for us to be able to get the structure, get the ordinance passed, hopefully?
Thereabout, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness.
Okay, any cross-examination?
And no, but thank you very much, Mr. Crossley.
Before Mr. Crossley does, excuse.
I would have a question.
Yes.
I do as well, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Washington, what is your question?
Mr. Crosby, you said 6 months to get a piece of legislation passed through the, I'm assuming you're talking about through city council. Are you going to testify to that fact that it would not take more than 6 months?
I can't give you a definitive timeline, but there and about. I would be remiss if I gave you a hard time because
would you commit to 6 months? Because since I have worked for city council, I've known no piece of legislation, especially when we talk about a streetery, they get passed through city council in 6 months. So I just want to make sure that I put you and the councilman on the record stating 6 months.
No, I can't confirm to that.
Well, you just testified to that.
I said there and about, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Mr. Chair, no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pincus.
This is both, this question is for Mr. Crossley as well as for the representatives of both the Streets Department and LNI. I want to know if there's, or if your office and elsewhere in the city, there is any city ordinance that has permitted the construction or legalization of a streetery on the sidewalk. My understanding is the legislation was to permit these structures temporarily, and that there are no approvals or have not been any approvals for new structures to be put in the sidewalk. So I want to know whether Mr. Councilman Young's office has approved other such facilities within the Councilmanic District, and or whether the city at LNI or Streets Department has approved any such structures anywhere else in the city.
Actually,
Yes,
Board
I'm
Member
asking
Pincus,
three of you.
if this
Yes.
is a question of what the law currently says, I believe I can answer as the.
Well,
City of
except Mr.
Philadelphia
Cohen,
representative.
I think what he's really getting at, and we need to hear from Mr. Crossley first, if in fact the councilman has authorized or written legislation to authorize such structures anywhere else in his district.
I actually was going to say I can't speak to what's
Yeah.
currently coming because I
So
can
we want
only
to hear
say
from
what
Mr.
the law
Crossley.
is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Crossley, please unmute. Can you respond?
To my knowledge, this is a unique situation, and because of the way the right of way, I'm also a code official. I wanted to put that out there, but because of the way the right of the way is, and there is no parking lane on the south side of the street there, that this is a unique situation. So this doesn't exist anywhere else in our district, to my knowledge.
Ms. Crossley, please answer the question. You didn't answer the question.
No, we currently do not.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll hear from Ms. Brisbane.
Mr. Chair, I have one final
Wait,
question.
okay,
One
just
final
Miss,
question.
yeah,
Okay, okay,
I
no
want to
problem.
get through this. Ms. Brisbane?
Yeah, there are no structures in Councilman Young's district or anywhere else in the city of Philadelphia for the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pincus, anything else, or is that answer the question that you put forth?
That answers my question.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Washington?
Yeah, just real quick, because of the new legislation about the bicycle lane, do this affect that at all?
You're asking Mr. Crossley.
Crossley.
No, sir. Currently, where it's on the sidewalk. It's not currently in the street, which is why it's unique. So it wouldn't impact the bike lanes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Crossley, I'm just curious. You mentioned a moment ago that you're a code official. What does that mean?
I'm a building code official. I'm a ICC.
For which district? For which municipality?
I am under. I no longer am a code official for Philadelphia. However, I still carry all my certifications while I was a code official for the municipality of Philadelphia.
And you were employed by which department?
License and inspection.
As what?
A code official.
Okay. Alrighty. Does anyone else have any questions of any of the witnesses? Okay. Oh, I will go back to this. Mr. Conlon, you're indicating that you were a code official. Does that suggest that you believe that this structure is currently legal based on existing code?
I was in so I was in the construction side of things. This would have been under the different purview of my former department. So this would have fallen under operations. I think it has a different name now. So I was a code official in the construction side of things. So according to the plans in which I've reviewed, the plans look to be adequate.
That isn't the question I asked of you, though.
Well, I can't really comment on that because I wasn't a part of that end of L&I.
Okay, so your designation as a code official has no relevance to this.
No, more so on the construction side of things.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And I guess does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, what we will do, we will ask both sides, Ms. O'Neill and Mr. Cohen, to give final argument. After that, we will take executive session before we vote. Ms. O'Neill, unless you have any to redirect of your witnesses.
I have no redirect. I just want to again to reiterate the devastating impact that would.
Well, that can be part of your closing. Then you can give your closing. That would be, you can make that as part of your closing.
Oh, I thought you just asked me to give my closing.
Yeah, so I did. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah,
that's what you were doing. Yeah.
Again, to close, I'll be brief because I know you have other cases behind this. But again, my client did everything that he was supposed to under the legislation that existed at the time that this was constructed. He expended considerable resources in order to get it put up, again, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and as a result of the fact that the administration at the time would not allow that indoor dining. My client complied with all the rules. He did all the right things, and to have expended the amount of money that he did to put it up, he would expect that he'd be able to be allowed to continue operating it again, just so that he gets some return on his investment beyond just a couple of years. There have been no issues as far as safety. I haven't heard any testimony today that any pedestrians have been affected. There's no public utility project that's coming up that would require this streetery to come down. And again, it is a beloved institution on Chestnut Street. And I would ask that this board just do what it can to help us get a little bit more time and more use out of the structure so that we can come up with some kind of a legislative fix to this issue.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Cohen?
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. The street, and specifically the sidewalk, belong to everyone. But we're not gonna, how would we even be able to find all the pedestrians that use that part of Chestnut Street every day? So the city instead has to speak, the streets department has to speak for those pedestrians and their rights to use the public right of way. And one of the ways in which we have done that is we've crafted the law on sidewalk cafes and streeteries such that you can't put a streetery anywhere but a parking lane, and you can't put a sidewalk cafe with a permanent structure on the sidewalk. It needs to be movable tables and chairs and heaters and other equipment, but it needs to be movable. And when you strip away everything else in this case, we have a structure that is not movable. And again, strip away everything else, all the irrelevancies, and essentially what the appellant is asking the board is to delay. Give me more time, give me a continuance, give me 6 months, give me time enough to change the law so that I'm no longer violating it. And one of the things that stuck out to me was Ms. O'Neill said the appellant has an expectation because it spent so much money. It has an expectation that it should be continued to be allowed to violate the law. And that simply is not the way the law works. You don't get to spend money to violate the law. If you're violating the law, you need to stop. So that's what the city is asking in this case. And most importantly, the thing that underlines this in bold for me is that we are not telling this cafe, you need to remove your tables and chairs. You need to stop seating these people, your patrons. We're saying that's fine. You need to take away the structure that's blocking the sidewalk so that they can sit at a table or a chair that can be moved if we need it moved. If the sidewalk needs to be more accessible, if you need to move something out of the way, that's what needs to happen. You can't put a permanent structure that permanently encroaches and blocks that part of the sidewalk, because then you are taking up the people's space. So that's why the city is asking this board not to look speculatively at what might happen in 6 months or a year. We're asking this board today, what does the law say? Is this unlawful? And if so, then we're asking this board respectfully to issue a city affirmed decision.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All righty. The board will take a short executive session and we'll be back momentarily. We're off the record. Okay, thank you. We're back on the record with regard to the instant case.
Mr. Pettit fell off.
Mr. Pettit, well, let's wait then until he returns.
I'm back.
You're back? Oh, there he is. Okay, we're back on the record for HA 2023-001189, 1716 Chestnut Street, Tuscan Realty of PA LLC. We've heard all the testimony and the closing arguments by council. So we're at this point of offering a vote. I will begin the vote. The city affirmed with a 30-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed with a 30-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed.
Ms. Washington?
City affirmed.
Okay, thank you very much. The tie vote of city affirmed between stay of enforcement and city affirmed. Mr. I believe we probably are at city affirmed. Is that correct, council? Mr. McSherry?
That is correct. We would need a majority of votes for the proviso to take effect. So
Okay.
it would just be city affirmed.
So the vote is city affirmed. Thank you everyone for your participation. Ms. O'Neill, Mr. Cohen, your witnesses are excused.
Thank you
very much,
for your
members of the
time.
board. Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
O'Neill.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wade, what do we have next?
Case number 17.
Okay.
Hearing appeal ending 4846, 2320 South Ithan Street, Roosevelt, Moscow.
Okay. Who's representing the city?
Ryan Kiger on behalf of the city.
Okay. Is the appellant present? Roosevelt, Moscow?
No one under that name in the waiting room. Everyone appears to be identified.
Okay. All right. We confirm service, Mr. Wade?
Mr. Moskov indicated 65 Bryn Mawr Avenue, Lansdowne, Pennsylvania. Notice of this hearing was sent to 65 Bryn Mawr Avenue in Lansdowne on September 19th.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Kiger, what is your pleasure? No one's responding.
The city would request a city affirm for lack of appearance.
Okay. Mr. Pincus, what time do we have?
2:43 p.m.
2:43 p.m. We will now poll the board regarding HA 2023-004848, 2320 South Ithan Street, Roosevelt, Moscow, city affirmed non-appearance.
City affirmed, non-appearance.
City affirmed, non-appearance.
Mr. Chair, I just want to double check on the address.
The address is 2320 South Ithan Street.
Is that what was read into the record?
Yes. There was a different address for the communication with the appellant. That's where the different address came in.
Okay, city firm non-appearance.
Okay. Thank you very much. I believe we have a complete vote, right? 4 votes. Thank you. All right, Mr. Kiger, anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Mr. Wade, I guess we can go to 20.
Yes, this is case 20. Hearing appeal ending 4867, 5222 Paschal Ave, Anna Neal. No one in the waiting room under that name.
Okay.
We can
Let's
call-
get the city's attorney on the Ms. Carmody. Okay. Alrighty. Mr. Wade, check for service, please.
Ms. Neal listed 426 South 44th Street. Notice of this hearing was sent to 426 South 44th Street, Philadelphia on September 19th.
Thank you very much. Ms. Carmody, no one's responding. What is your pleasure?
City would request a city affirmed for non-appearance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pincus. What time do you have?
2:45 p.m.
2:45 p.m. Alrighty, we'll poll the board on HA-2023-004867, 5222 Paschal Avenue, Anna Neal, city affirmed non-appearance.
City affirmed for non-appearance.
City affirmed, non-appearance.
City firm non-appearance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that completes that matter.
Yes, Mr. Reuter was in a breakout room with, for case 27. I believe that matter was continued. I don't know if that was officially put on the record, though.
No, they needed to talk, so we had Mr. Reuter come back if he's present, if he's available.
Yes.
And
Thank
Mason
you.
Avergan's here for the property owner.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Avrigian, and I did speak. I understand that he was just retained for the matter. We had a discussion also involving the inspector, so we will agree to a continuance. I understand there's a timeliness issue, but since the attorney has just been retained, I'll give him an opportunity to look into that and respond before we address that.
Okay. Mr. Reuter, would you put the full numbers on and the address?
Oh,
on
I'm
the record,
sorry.
please?
Sure. This would be number 27 on the list, HA 2023-004911. The address is 1118R to 30-32 Solly, Solly Avenue. Appellant is Jose Rodriguez. So yes, again, we'll agree jointly to a continuance.
Thank you very much. Let the record reflect this would be a joint continuance.
Thank
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, before the
Yeah.
parties leave, we had mentioned that, and I don't know whether and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Avrignian, has aware that there was an issue of timeliness of this appeal.
Yes,
And if-
Mr. Reuter raised that in there when they were in the breakout room, so I think he's on notice to look into that.
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr.
we'll
Pincus,
raise that
Mr.
the next
Reuter
time.
did raise that with me, and we will address that. And I appreciate him giving me that information.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
Any
you.
witnesses that are excused as well?
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Wade, what else do we have remaining?
The last matter is case 46, hearing appeal ending 5061, 1519 South Chadwick, Melissa Impaglazio.
Okay. Who's handling that for the city?
I apologize, members of the board. Is this number 46 on the list?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I was just gathering my documentation together.
Okay.
Jeffrey Cohen for the city in this matter.
Okay, Melissa Impaglazio. Ma'am?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine. I just want to make sure that you are in fact, Melissa, would you pronounce your last name, please? And spell it?
Impagliazzo.
Impagliazzo. Okay, would you
Yes.
spell it for the court reporter, please?
IMPAGLIAZZO.
ZZO.
Thank you. Would you raise your right hand so that you may be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give will be the truth so help you God?
Yes,
Thank you. Also, ma'am, whose name is on the deed to this property?
mine,
South Chadwick,
my name.
your name alone?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Cohen, you have any witnesses?
Yes, LNI Inspector Stacy Jones.
Okay, Ms. Jones, are you present?
This, Mr. Chair, this so I'm clear, are we looking at case number 46 or
Yes.
47?
46.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, 46. Okay, Ms. Jones, if you would unmute and raise your right hand so you may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
I do.
Thank you very much. Place your hand down. Okay, Mr. Cohen.
All right, just as a brief opening, there's no real contention in the Blur appeal form or the city's end that this is a vacant property that needs a vacant license and it needs to be properly maintained. The grounds for appeal in the appeal form speak to financial hardship claims. Essentially, it's too expensive to be able to do this. But what the law also says is that a property owner must also pay their taxes, must pay their water and sewer bills, must essentially follow the law. We can't allow this appellant to break the law, not be tax or water or sewer fee compliant, and also to not comply with the LNI codes. And with that, the city would call Inspector Stacy Jones to testify.
Thank you.
Inspector Jones, if you could please tell the board how long you've worked for LNI and in what capacity.
28 years, code enforcement inspector.
And through the course of your duties, have you inspected the property at and reviewed LNI's files for 1519 South Chadwick Street?
I have.
And with the board's permission, I'm going to put the city's exhibits packet on my screen.
Yes.
Please let me know if you can see the packet and then if it's big enough.
I can see it, but it is not big enough. It needs to be a bit larger.
How about that?
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
All right, let's actually start from exhibit C4 on page 5 and we'll go backwards. So Inspector, who took this photo?
I did.
And when did you take this photo?
November the 1st.
And does this accurately depict the conditions at 1519 South Chadwick Street as of November 1st of this year?
It does.
And can you point out in this photo, what are the conditions in violation?
The fact that it's vacant. The windows are, I don't know if they're partially missing or they're just open to the elements, but the windows.
In particular, this window on the second floor left-hand side.
Correct.
And can you speak to the general condition of the front exterior face of the property?
The front of the property is in disrepair and it appears to be vacant.
That sort of peeling paint that you can see above the first floor?
Yes.
And now let's take a moment to go backwards onto page 4. What's the date of this cyclomedia.phila.gov photo? And do you need me to enlarge it?
Wait, my picture
Sorry.
might be in the way.
Can you see the date that's in the upper left-hand corner?
October the 6th, 2023.
And is this a document that the city keeps in the ordinary course of its business?
Yes, it is.
And is the photograph that was taken and entered into the system entered by someone through the course of their ordinary duties for Cyclomedia?
Yes.
And are the conditions that we see on screen now essentially the same as the photo that you took a couple of days ago?
It is.
And now we'll go back to page 3. What's the date of this photo?
December. This is December the
I'll enlarge the upper right hand, or
29th
upper
of
left hand corner.
2022.
And the same, does the same apply, that this is a photo taken in the ordinary course of employee's business and something, a record that the city keeps in the ordinary course of its business?
Correct.
And going up to page 2, what's the date of this photo?
December the 4th, 2021.
And the same questions, is this photo the city keeps in the ordinary course of its business entered by an employee through their ordinary duties?
Correct.
Is there any visible change on the exterior from 2021 to November 1st of this year?
Other than someone placed a planner out there? No.
Well, that's right. So if we look here on page 2, page 3, there's no planter, right, on page 3?
No.
So page 4, no planter.
No planner.
So there it is on page 5. Is that it?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the only change.
That's the only change.
All right, and scrolling down now to page 6 in the packet, what is this that I have on screen?
That is a rental license that's inactive since 2014? Since 2015.
And who was this rental license issued to?
Melissa, I don't want to mess her last name up.
Is it the appellant?
Yes.
Thank you. And scrolling down here to page 7 in the packet, is this the same rental license 452102?
Correct.
And this is for the subject premises of 1519 South Chadwick?
Correct.
And have there been any other licenses issued since?
No.
But if the property is vacant under the Philadelphia Code, does it need to have a vacant license?
It does.
And are these documents on page 6 and 7, are they documents LNI keeps in the ordinary course of its business?
It is.
And this is something that the information that goes into these documents would be entered by an applicant and then by a city employee through their ordinary duties.
Yes.
And scrolling down now to page 8, what document is this?
That's a violation order to correct.
And what's the date of this notice?
11/10/2023.
It's like a couple days shy of a year ago.
Correct.
And is this a document LNI keeps in the ordinary course of its business?
It is.
And is the info that goes into this document entered by an LNI inspector through the course of their ordinary duties?
Yes, it is.
So what are the violations that are at issue here?
The vacant license.
And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was actually about to ask, what's the next one?
About the vacant structure and premises, how it should be maintained safe and secure and sanitary.
And is it in a clean and sanitary condition in the photos that we saw in pages 2 through 5?
No.
And what's the next violation?
That will be the owner of any vacant building shall keep the interior and exterior of the premises free of garbage and rubbish.
And is that a duty of an owner even if they live somewhere else, if that's not their
It
homestead?
is.
So even if a property is vacant, a property owner would need to regularly come and clean in front of and inside the property?
Correct.
And what is this final violation that's at the bottom of page 9?
Excuse me. Vacant property shall have doors, windows, and openings from roof and other areas maintained in good repair. All
And
broken, boarded, and or missing windows and doors.
I was about to say, does that also mean that windows of a vacant property should be closable?
Yes, they should be operable and secured.
And if a window on a vacant property stays open for a period of 3 or more years, would that have a negative effect or negative impact on the interior?
Yes, it does.
Well, what are some of the common issues with vacant properties, especially vacant properties that are not secured?
Wildlife, rodents, raccoons, birds.
Also wildlife that can enter and exit a property through like an unboarded or unopened, or sorry, an open window, a window that isn't closed.
Correct.
Are there any other issues with a vacant property that has a deterioration on its face?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Are there any other issues that are caused by a vacant property that is facially deteriorated?
Basically, it's causing problems for the neighboring homes with no upkeep.
And if we see in this photo here, the one that you took, is the man in the Eagles shirt there, is he the neighbor?
He is.
So what potential impact would happen to him and anyone who lives with him because of this property?
Well, he stated that there are numerous families of raccoons living and entering and exiting that property. And they're starting to, how should I say, scratch at the walls. He's in fear of them coming into his property.
Thank you. You'll permit me for a second, members of the board. I'm just going to scroll down now to here on page 11. This is the blur appeal that was filed. I just have a copy as page C7 in the city's packet. And it does, as I said earlier, alluded to in my opening, the grounds for appeal are filed an extension for my tax returns, cannot afford to fix the property right now or put actual windows on versus boarding up the property. And as the board may know, boarding up windows does not constitute good repair under the Philadelphia Code. It does need to be window glazing that's closable for windows at the property. So this is exhibit C8, just for the board's edification. This is the actual deed to the subject premises. And you can see in the upper right-hand corner, it has the stamp of the City Department of Records that recorded it. So this
What
is
was the date of recording? What date was it recorded? I can't make that out.
June 9th of 2008 was the date of recording.
Okay.
And the date on the deed is June 5th of that same year. And scrolling down, please bear with me. Here we have a November 12th, 2008 deed to a different property. This is actually to 1644 South Newkirk Street, purchased around the same time. The reason why the city has included this, and you can also see the stamping of the City Department of Records and the date of recording, is because both of these are investment properties, which the city will get to with the next questions of Inspector Jones. Sorry. Inspector Jones, what is this document that I have on screen?
That's inactive rental license.
Also expired the same date, February 28th of 2015.
Correct.
But this is license number 462335. That's not the same license, right?
No.
And scrolling down to the next page, page 29, is this the license for 1644 South Newkirk Street?
Correct.
And are these documents on pages 28 and 29 that the city keeps in the ordinary course of its business?
It is.
And are they entered by the applicant and then by an L&I employee through the course of their ordinary duties?
They are.
Thank you. And on the next page here on page 30, the city actually has a stamped recorded lien for water and sewer rents for the subject premises, South Chadwick Street. This is a lien for rents that are owed from a period from January 5th of 2017 to September 30th of 2020. The next exhibit, also stamped by the Office of Judicial Records, another lien for water and sewer rents from October 7th of 2020 to December 31st of 2022 for unpaid water and sewer rents. And I'll skip that for the time being. The reason why the city brings those to the board's attention is actually because of this provision in the law, section A 22.7. So no license or permit required by any provision of Title IV or Section 93901, which 93901 is rental licenses, vacant licenses, property licenses. So no license shall be issued if the applicant is delinquent in the payment of any city or school district taxes, charges, fees, rents, or claims. And we see there are 2 municipal liens that were filed for the subject premises for unpaid water and sewer rents. That's a fee that is unpaid to the city of Philadelphia. So that would hold up the issuance of a vacant license. In fact, the city is not permitted, it says shall not be issued. No license shall be issued. We're not permitted to issue a vacant license unless a person is either tax compliant or on a tax payment plan. That's this part of A 2207, unless the applicant has entered into an agreement to pay the delinquency. Essentially, if Ms. Impagliazzo wants to be compliant with the law, she needs to either pay the taxes, water, sewer, rents, etc. in full, or at least get onto a payment plan to do so. And then she can apply and receive a vacant license for this property. And of course, the law does say compliance is required to obtain a license or permit, meaning we can't, our hands are tied. We can't issue a license to someone who's not compliant, which brings me back up to this page here, the Philadelphia Tax Center. I've redacted the social security number, but essentially the result from the publicly available Philadelphia Tax Center is that Melissa Impagliazzo, the appellant, is not currently tax compliant, has failed a tax clearance check. Thank you very much, Inspector Jones. I would at this time just reserve a little time for redirect if necessary. And Ms. Impagliazzo, if you want, I can keep the exhibits on screen and you can tell me if you want me to flip to a certain page.
Ms. Impagliazzo, do you have any cross-examination for Inspector Jones?
No.
Okay, thank you. All righty, Ms. Impagliazzo, you can present your case.
If it's easier, you could call me Melissa. It's okay.
Impagliazzo, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I got there.
Okay.
Do you have it? What would you like to tell us?
So I am not denying the fact that the property is vacant. It is the last tenant that moved out. He stole all of our pipes, my pipes in the property, and he left it in disarray. The windows do go up and down. There are actual windows in there, but they do fall down and open. That's not something, they're not broken. I mean, they're broken in the sense of they don't stay up, but they're not broken in the sense of no glass or anything like that. I am in communication with the neighbors there, and they have contacted me with whenever there's an issue with regards to the front or the back of people throwing away, throwing trash in front of the property, or if there's, I've gotten a call for a tree in the back at some point, and I'm able to get somebody over there to take care of, anything that's concerning of the neighbors. So it's something that the raccoon issue that was mentioned was not mentioned to me, not once. So I didn't know about any raccoon issues until it was just said a few minutes ago. So I do have somebody that I could send over that specializes in wildlife to go take care of that issue. So that way it is taken care of. I can screw the windows shut so that way they stay up. But with regards to the vacancy license, I'm not in a place where I can get that anytime soon. I am not compliant. I had major hardship. I had a IRS audit, which my accountant would not handle for me, that I dealt with for years. So I ended up having to find a different accountant who sued the IRS, and then he passed away, leaving me again with nobody to help me. So we've recently found another accountant to handle my tax returns. He just completed an additional IRS audit, which is now my 7th audit at this point. And so my taxes aren't filed from 2020 until now. So I don't have taxes that are on file with the city of Philadelphia in order to get on a payment arrangement for my BIRTs or my NPTs. My real estate taxes are up to date. My mortgage is up to date. It's not something that any of that is out. This is a bigger than the city of Philadelphia type scenario with regards to my taxes. So it's something that I'm going through. I'm working with this new accountant now in order to get up to date with all of our taxes, which will include obviously filing with the city of Philadelphia from 2020 to now. So it is something that I am currently working on, but it's, 2024, it's 4 years worth of taxes. So it's not something that's unfortunately done overnight. Once I'm able to get those taxes up to date, then I'll be able to be in compliance. I'll be able to get on a payment arrangement for whatever I owe to the city, and I'll be able to get the license. The reason I haven't paid the water bill is A, because the property is vacant, and B, there's no pipes in the property. So there is no water usage. I know that I'm still getting charged for it, but it's not something that was at the top of my priority list, if I'm being honest, because I have other things that I've needed to pay in order to just live. So it wasn't something that the vacant water at this property was a priority for me. So I could lie to you, but I'm going to be dead honest. But once we're able to get back on track, I'll be able to pay that water off. It's not something I'm looking to not. I'd like to obviously get the property up and running. I'd like to get it rented out. I'd like to handle those things. And I know there's a process that needs to be done, but it's not something that can be, I'm in a place financially or time-wise to be able to do that right this minute.
Okay, any cross-examination, Mr. Cohen?
Just a couple of questions. Thank you,
Yes.
members of the board. Ms. Impagliazzo, is it your position that you don't need to pay city taxes while you're under a federal tax audit?
I can't file my taxes, so I don't have a bill to pay. I don't have an amount to pay if I didn't file the actual returns.
You know that the city's returns are separate from the federal returns.
And I still need an accountant to do that.
And you do know it is your responsibility as a taxpayer every year to either have an accountant file your taxes or to file your taxes yourself.
Correct, and I need an accountant to do that. So again, I have one who will not deal with it, one that passed away, and now I have another one. So now I'm working on getting everything taken care of to be filed from 2020 to now.
And are you also aware that even if you don't have water going to a property, that every property in the city still needs to pay its share of stormwater fees?
Yes, I'm not denying that the bill is owed. I'm not saying it's not my bill. I'm not saying that I don't owe it. I know I owe it. I just, again, it's not at the top of my priority list to pay water on a vacant property.
Thank you very much for your candor. The city has no further questions.
Okay, I do have a question, ma'am.
Yes.
How many investment properties do you own in the city of Philadelphia?
Just these two.
You don't own 1500 Chestnut Street?
No, that was a property that I worked for that specific owner. I had actually 3 other cases besides this that all were moot complied for other owners. I don't own any of those 3 properties that
But
were
you
listed.
submitted appeals on behalf of other owners,
Correct, because I work for them.
but you can't do that. Well, okay, that's only the owner or a lawyer can represent the owner.
I had signed management agreements.
Doesn't matter.
with
You have to
those
be a loan. You have to be the owner or the lawyer. But that's another issue. I won't go into that in any detail. But and you've been an investor in these properties since 2008. How do you?
Correct.
So how should the neighbors and the community deal with delinquent properties that are pulling down their property values and having to live with trashed properties?
The property is, I mean, like I said, they have been in communication with me with regards to any issues they have had at the property. So it is something that they have called me. I've spoke to someone as recent as maybe 2 months ago. I spoke
Okay,
to a
well,
woman
but I
with
guess the
regards
question
to
would be,
that
why
issue.
haven't you gone over and screwed the windows tight shut?
Because honestly, because it wasn't something that anybody had even mentioned was an issue, and I didn't think it was against the law for me to have the windows open in the property.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Is there any final argument from you or from Mr. Cohen? Anything you'd like to say in final summary?
Yes, but I can,
Yeah,
go
I'll,
next.
as Ms. Impagliazzo, if you could go first, then Mr. Cohen will conclude.
I would just like to say that it's not something that I want to be in the position I'm in. On top of the taxes and issues, both my parents are dealing with health issues. It's not something I'm looking to be in this scenario that I'm in right now, but I'm trying to get there and I'm looking for time.
Good. Thank you very much. Mr. Cohen?
Yes, this blur appeal was filed on December 7th of 2023. We're now at November 7th of 2024, so 11 months have passed. I would like to say that, yes, we've covered the windows that need to be shut if they're nailed shut or otherwise fixed. However they are fixed, they need to be shut so that vermin can't keep coming in and out of the property. More importantly, Section A202.7 about getting licenses, about having to be tax compliant. That's a double-edged sword for a reason. It both ties the city's hands. We can't issue a license unless someone is tax compliant, because we want to encourage people to become tax compliant. And one of the ways that we do so is by enforcing the other codes, including the vacant license code, so that a person can be fined if they don't have their licenses, if they are not tax compliant. It's another way of getting people to enter into those agreements with the revenue department to make sure they are compliant. And no, it is not an excuse that you did not file tax returns for 4 years because you were under a federal audit or had other priorities. The city of Philadelphia and its taxes needs to be a priority. Every year, returns need to be filed, and we need to have, the people need to have their proper taxes paid. And the same goes for water and sewer rents. For the portion of the stormwater fee that this property is responsible for, that does need to be paid. And one of the ways that we capture this, that the city is able to enforce this, is by, for example, taking a property to court for L&I violations, the license violations of which can only be complied by getting someone into tax compliance. So that's why the city is seeking a city affirmed decision here, so we can move forward with an L&I enforcement action that will encourage compliance with everything else, water and stormwater payments and city tax payments. So the city respectfully requests this board issue a city affirmed decision.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now poll the board on HA-2020.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Yes.
question from Ms. Impagliazzo, and
Yes.
maybe an executive session might be appropriate. You said you've indicated your difficulties in getting an accountant and, someone passing away and then so on. How long has the current accountant that you've engaged been engaged by you?
Only a few months. He took on the audit that I had last and has been dealing with the IRS directly. And now that last audit is
Where you're not coming
any
through.
taxes. Say it. I'm sorry. Say it again.
So one, you said a couple of months, and is he preparing the returns that are required? How, if you provided all the necessary information, he ought to be able to complete, or he or she, whoever it is, and file the necessary returns. So you've obviously had this problem for 4 years. What is your expectation with respect to dealing with the requirements of filing tax returns? And if you file them, are you in a position either to make payments or enter into payment agreements? I guess I'm trying to get a sense. This has been going on for the property's been vacant since 2015 or thereabouts, and it's now 2024. You could have sold the property perhaps and dealt with, gotten the money to take care of these problems.
So we took on this new accountant and he handled the audit first. So it wasn't something that he was taking on filing new returns for us until the audit was taken care of. So now that the audit is now completed, we are pulling all the information and getting everything over to him for all of the years from 2024 to from 2020 to current. Once everything is filed, I should be able to realistically, hopefully pay the city, depending on what the numbers end up being, either pay the city in full or get on a payment arrangement to get the city for the payments direct for all of the returns that are due at that time.
You don't presently have a time frame for the completion of the submission of the returns.
Before the end of the year. For every single return for legitimately 2020 until 2024, every single return. Or I met with him last week, and that's the goal, is to get every single return filed before December 31st.
You've also used the pronoun we. Does that mean there's more than one person involved with this?
My husband is obviously, it's a joint return. So return wise, yes, he is part of my tax returns and my audits and everything. He's not a part of the property. He doesn't own the property, but he is he is obviously a part of my tax returns and my life.
Very good. Thank you for answering my question.
No problem.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just so that I'm clear with Ms. Empanaza, just to be clear, did you state that your original accountant passed away a few years ago?
So my original accountant would not handle our IRS audit. So he wanted to terminate our relationship because he did not want to handle that.
So
we
once
had-
he decided he didn't want to, he wanted to terminate your relationship, what did you do?
I had to find somebody that would handle the audit and move forward.
How
which
long ago was that?
That was about 4 years ago.
So since 4 years ago, you haven't done anything?
No, that accountant who, we went through that audit, that was a different audit for different years with the IRS. That accountant suggested for us to not file new returns until that audit was
So I'm
complete.
going to ask the question again. I'm going to ask you the same question all over again. Since your accountant decided not to do your taxes, you haven't done anything.
No, that's not true.
Well, answer my question then.
That's what
What
I
have
was,
you done?
we had to hire a different accountant to handle the audit, who suggested to not file any new ones, and in turn filed a lawsuit against the IRS.
So when did you file that?
That was in 2019.
And what happened after that?
He died.
Okay, so what happened after he died?
He died he died in 2021.
But what did you do after that?
We tried to find another accountant to handle our taxes and our returns.
And that was 2 years, 3 years ago?
Correct.
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
I have no more question.
Okay, thank
Members
you.
of the board, I have one follow-up question based on Member Washington's questions.
Okay.
Ms. Impagliazzo, back in 2019, when your accountant gave you the advice to stop filing tax returns, did you go to an attorney to confirm that it was lawful for you to stop filing tax returns?
No, I had to go off of, he was our accountant. He was my professional opinion for that, and that's what he suggested, so that's what we did. At that point, it was our at least 5th audit with the IRS, so I wasn't looking to continue to go down the same road over and over again with them.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna, Mr. Pickers, do you believe we still need an executive session?
I'd like to have one, please. Shouldn't take
Okay.
long.
Okay, thank you. We'll go off the record for a few moments and be back shortly. Thank you. Regarding number 46. Mr. Kelly, we ready? Thank you very much. I don't see Mr. Cohen.
I'm
Oh,
here.
there
members
is.
of the
Yeah,
board.
Ms. Cohen and the appellant also, I see her image as well. So we're going to poll the board regarding HA-2023-005061, 1519 South Chadwick Street. Melissa Impagliazzo, city affirmed 60-day stay of enforcement. Mr. Pettis and Mr. Pincus.
Sorry, I was muted. City affirmed with a 60-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed with a 60-day stay of enforcement.
60-day stay enforcement, city affirmed.
Thank you very much. That's the decision of the board. Ms. Impagliazzo, that means that the city will, the city's won its case, but we've asked them to stay any further enforcement for 60 days.
Thank you very much, members of the board. Thank you.
All right,
Mr.
have a good
Impagliazzo.
afternoon, everyone. All the witnesses are excused.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What does that mean? So I have 60 days for what? Like,
Well, the city can take additional enforcement action against you because you, their position has been upheld. We've asked them not to take any additional enforcement action for 60 days. But what you may want to do is call Mr. Cohen to have a conversation about what that may mean in your case. They need to see that you are taking some action to correct this matter.
okay.
And for the benefit of those neighbors, please have someone go over there immediately and screw those windows shut and make sure there's nothing living there that's going to affect their health and well-being.
Yep.
And you should also call your accountant and tell him or her that the city's been gracious of the board to give you a 60-day stay of enforcement to get this sort of under control. So that gives that accountant an opportunity to deal with this within the next 60 days so that you can then work something out with the city.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, are we looking at this as case number
46? Case number 46.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
you.
Mr.
Wade, do we have anything else?
No, we don't.
Okay, thank you, everyone. That concludes our meeting for today. Everyone have a good afternoon. Mr. Pincus, I will call you in 10 minutes. May I do that?
Yes, sir.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. Take care.
Take care.